The restaurant was buzzing with the low hum of conversations, the clinking of glasses, and the faint aroma of grilled steak wafting through the air. But when she walked in, everything seemed to pause, if only for a heartbeat. To everyone else, she was just another customer, dressed in a simple blazer, her hair tied back in a no-nonsense bun. But beneath the modest outfit and quiet demeanor was a secret the world didn't know. She was a billionaire, a woman whose name commanded industries, whose decisions shaped cities, and whose fortune could buy the very building they were all standing in. Tonight, however, she wanted none of that. Tonight, she wanted to disappear into the crowd, to feel like an ordinary woman in an ordinary restaurant, to order a steak and just breathe. Jason noticed her the moment she entered, not because of who she was, for he didn't recognize her, but because of how she carried herself, calm, observant, with a heaviness in her eyes that didn't belong to someone coming in for a casual dinner. He was a single dad, working double shifts to keep the lights on at home and food on the table for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Life hadn't been easy since his wife passed away 2 years ago. Every bill felt heavier, every day longer, every moment torn between being the father his daughter needed and the provider their life demanded. Yet, he greeted her with the same warm smile he offered every customer. "Good evening, ma'am. Table for one." She nodded, her gaze flickering around the cozy little steakhouse before resting on him. "Yes, please. Somewhere quiet, if that's possible." Jason led her to a corner booth away from the chatter, handed her a menu, and offered the usual water. As she placed her order, a medium-rare sirloin garlic butter and a glass of red, he couldn't help but notice the way she hesitated before speaking, as if her mind was elsewhere. There was something about her, a quiet sadness hidden behind perfectly rehearsed composure. As the evening went on, Jason continued his rounds, tending to tables, refilling drinks, forcing smiles while his mind churned with the worry of how he would pay for Lily's school trip next week. It wasn't a fortune, but to a man living on tips and scraps of overtime, it felt like a mountain. His daughter had been talking about that trip for months. How it was her chance to finally see the planetarium, to look through real telescopes, to dream about the stars like her mom used to. When Jason returned to check on the woman's table, she was staring out the window, untouched wine in her hand, a faint frown pulling at her lips. "Everything all right with your meal?" he asked. She blinked, returning to the present. "Oh yes. The steak is wonderful. Thank you." Jason hesitated for a moment. He didn't know why, but something about her expression tugged at him. It wasn't his place to ask, yet something inside him, a mix of empathy and exhaustion, nudged him forward. As he handed her the bill, he slipped a small folded piece of paper under the receipt. He walked away before she could open it. Minutes later, she unfolded the note. It read, "Sometimes the richest moments in life aren't bought. They're made with people who still care, even when they have nothing left to give. If you're carrying a heavy heart tonight, I hope you find a reason to smile again." She stared at the words, her breath catching in her chest. It was simple, almost childlike in its earnestness, but it hit her harder than any corporate deal or congratulatory email ever had. Because what Jason didn't know was that tonight, she wasn't just an undercover billionaire. She was a woman standing on the edge of walking away from everything. The pressure, the betrayals, the loneliness of wealth that no one believed could exist, it had drained her. She had come here to decide whether to sell her company, leave the city, and vanish for good. And now a stranger, a single father with tired eyes and a kind smile, had handed her a reason to pause. When Jason returned, she looked at him differently. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" he asked, confused. "For caring," she replied, tucking the note into her purse like a lifeline. The night went on, and when she left, she tipped generously, though still discreetly. But what Jason didn't expect was the envelope left under her plate. Inside was a check, a sum far beyond the cost of a meal, with a note, "For your daughter's dreams. Keep making the world better, one small kindness at a time." Jason's hands trembled as he read it. It was enough to not only send Lily on her trip, but to ease months of worry. He looked out the window, hoping to catch sight of her, but she was already gone. Weeks later, the truth emerged. The restaurant was abuzz with whispers. The mysterious woman was none other than Evelyn Hart, the elusive billionaire known for her bold investments and reclusive nature. But now, she was making headlines for a new reason. a massive initiative to support single parents inspired, as she said in a press release, by a man who reminded me that kindness is the rarest form of wealth. Jason saw the article with disbelief, his daughter beaming beside him. For the first time in a long while, he felt hope, not just for his bills, but for the belief that even in a world of power and pretense, a simple note from a single dad could change the course of someone's life. And as Evelyn watched the news from her high-rise office, she smiled, a real smile this time, because for the first time in years, she felt human again.